Happy day. So I found an astrologer on my birthday this year in Phoenix. And she did my natal chart. And, a lot of it was like, okay, validation. I've heard this before. Yes, thank you. Like, I've done a lot of astrology, but what really drew me was her personality. And she's this like very fun, happy author. Like she writes these great poems and all this stuff. But I really just, like I resonated with this person. So this is Sue Lusk. Welcome.
Hi.
And of course, Thaddeus and I are here as usual to bring Sue out into the spotlight and share her magic with you in the Valley and whoever's watching on YouTube, wherever you are. So her biggest focus is mostly astrology readings, but she also does workshops and tarot readings and all kinds of fun stuff. So let's first start with how, like, I'm going to throw you a loop here, Sue. When in your life, when did this start for you? What was your kind of like aha moment? This is who I am. I'm an astrologer. I want to help people with this.
Well, I started doing astrology when I was about 14 years old. I got Linda Goodman's Sun Signs book. And back then, that was like the only one. This is like early 70s. But I'm an old soul, and I knew that I was connected to spirit before I even knew what that meant. So I started studying astrology when I was 14, and I found it fascinating that I recognized things in that were me. And it made me curious as how does she know that? How? And so, yeah. So that really intrigued me because I'm very into a lot of metaphysics and things like that. And so I just began studying that about myself at an early age, because the more you know about yourself, the better off you are in life.
Absolutely.
So I started learning and then sharing, because I found it fascinating how right on it is. It's like, wow. And when people know as much about themselves as possible, they're in a better position to be successful in what they go after.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So what's interesting is I just met you in August, and Thaddeus has known you how long? 10 years? When did you say you met Thaddeus?
We actually just met today.
I mean, like, but you knew who she was.
Yeah, she's been in my awareness at Unity of Phoenix. I went to a prosperity class and actually got this, which says, I am happy, I am healthy, I am whole, I am wealthy. And then Sue Lusk is on the bottom of it. So I've known about her. And then we also we're at the Place of Spiritual Wisdom. She's there every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but I guess she was off for the summer when I was there on Friday. So it's an interesting interloop of connections.
Yeah. So when I met Sue, I got the same magnet. She has little magnets with poems on them. So I got the same one Thaddeus has, and it's on my fridge. So it's kind of a neat thing. And like you said, Sue Lusk, well, I wonder who that is. Okay, that's a person. And she wrote this thing. Thank you. I'm thinking, like like Sue said, I'm on your refrigerator, so you think of me. But
right next to
I'm on refrigerators all over the country. Here, take a magnet. And who doesn't love refrigerator magnets, right?
Yeah.
And then you got something cute to think about, or a little poem. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense, and you can look at that and maybe get a little inspiration, or think, hey, I'm not alone, even if you don't actually know me. You see my name.
Yeah, it's a reminder, and it's a good reminder of those I am statements that we need to have them in, like, right here. Like, oh yes, thank you. I need to remember to say that every day. So,
and I am are the most two important words in the English language. Do you know why?
Tell me.
Because anything you put behind those two words, you're declaring yourself to be.
Yes. I love that. I work a lot with words and intentions and thought forms, and I am ready to, like, that's the manifestation phrase that I use, is I am ready to, and then whatever you put behind that's going to show up
Yep.
Perfect. So yeah, very, very much aligned with you. And I think that's a big piece of this is finding the people that resonate with you. So when
Absolutely.
you find an astrologer, reader, tarot, whatever it is, like always feel good. Make sure you feel good with them. Like you'd want to hang out with them or have coffee or whatever. So when we bring people into this space, it's just like, here's Sue Lusk. She might be the right one for you. She might not, but here she is. So thank you for taking the time to be here. You were telling me you're going to be at the psychic fair at the Place of Spiritual Wisdom. We'll put all this in the notes too. October 7th. So they have a big thing going on.
Yeah, so the Place of Spiritual Wisdom is under new ownership. They just Barbara and Bob bought it about in April, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're revamping, we're adding more classes, we have a lot more things going on. So this is like a grand reopening, welcome the new owners, and see what we have for you, because we have so much there that's available. There's going to be about 20 or so vendors with all kinds of different merchandise. I'll be there doing astrology and cards as well. So whatever you're looking for, we're going to have giveaways, a raffle. So it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun energy people there. It's just really a great group of people, and I'm really feel blessed to have gotten involved with them as well as meeting you. So now is the time for expansion. I think for all of us. And it's about connecting the dots, because we're all connected. Like that is, you had my magnet for how long, right?
Right.
So we're connected, even though we don't know it,
Yeah.
So it's like the universe is a spider web, right? And we think sometimes something is so far away that we can't possibly get there. But then the strand that's in front of us, we follow that strand, and we find that we're already connected to all that. It's our perception that makes us think it's far away or unattainable.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it.
And Katie will be at the Place of Spiritual Wisdom for the psychic fair as well. So she'll be there.
Cool.
And just so everybody knows, the Place of Spiritual Wisdom is on the west side in Peoria.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these psychic fairs and stuff take place on the east side. So this is one of those west side.
And that's another thing we're really excited about, because that's very true, that there's a lot of stuff on the east side and there's hardly anything on the west side. So we're hoping to open that venue for more people that live over there. The address is 9720 West Peoria. And it's like the first light west of the 101 when you get off of Peoria on the west side over there. So it's really easy to find. But there's so much to be offered over there, and we're expanding more. So, come see us if you live on the west side. This is going to be really great for the community over there.
Yeah. And it's right across the street from where I practice as well, the West Valley Center of Spiritual Living. So it's
very cool.
Real connected. Me and Barbara.
You guys, your neighbors?
Yeah, we're neighbors, right on top of each other.
It's so funny, the coincidences, even though there are no coincidences, right? And it's like it's discoveries, right? Oh, look, we're neighbors. Oh, look, we're connected here, connected there. It's like surprise,
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah, and you also do regular time slots there, you said, Sue. Thursday through Saturday, 11 to 4. Is that right?
That is correct. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 11 to 4. I'm there available for mini astrology readings. I do a bigger report than the one that I gave you. It's an in-depth, like 15-page report. Or I do the mini ones like at the fairs, because it's like, here you go, boom, 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 a little bit of information.
Yeah.
I also do tarot cards over there. You can call to make an appointment or just drop in during those hours.
Well, that's where you can find Sue. You got to go to Peoria. So just saying. But you also said you're teaching a class October 15th and 22nd. Please do share.
Oh, so this class is called Search for Awareness, and it is like my heart, my passion. It's based on a class that I took in high school called search for awareness. And this teacher taught it for 30 years, and he was so ahead of his time. And he impacted so many people's lives. That's unbelievable. I took a survey before I started teaching it to ask, hey, did you take this class and how did it affect your life? And the response was amazing for me, because he taught that for 30 years. So like 5,000, 6,000, how many ever students go through there during that time.
Yeah.
And it was an easy class because it was all about discovering yourself, finding different ways to deal with, bullying, or your parents fight, telling you all those things. So it gave you a better perspective on how to deal with these things that we go through in life. So I expanded it over with my friend, Dr. Miller, who was a teacher, professor at ASU's Mary Lou Fulton College. So we put this together. She took the class also. We were friends for 50 years. And so we collaborated on this workshop and workbook. And now I love sharing it because it is so impactful. And the people that I've shared it with, they're like, oh my gosh, that's so helpful. I wish I would have known that sooner, right? So I was fortunate enough to learn it as a teenager. So I've been practicing it for a long time and sharing that. And I have found the worth in that to be for everybody. So I want to share that with as many people as possible, because once we know who we are, it's all about self-knowledge and self-love, and being okay with who you are. And if you're not okay with who you are, improve yourself. You're the only one who can make those changes. You can't make anybody do anything else. And we spend a lot of time doing that. Well, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna change you. No. The only person you can do that for is yourself. So
it seems so
polish your light every day.
Yeah. It seems so obvious, but it's like we all do that. Like, well, I wish they would. Like, nope, stop there.
Yeah, as soon as the world changed, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And that's funny because that's one of the things that was from his classes. Everybody wants to change the world, but nobody wants to change themselves.
Yeah.
And that's how you change the world, is by changing you first. Being at peace with yourself, because when we are at peace and love ourselves, and other people's opinions are simply their opinions, then we become strong in knowing who our true self is and what our purpose is.
Yeah.
And the more people that do that, the stronger the individual with compassion. Not like, oh, I'm so great, like some people get the ego in there. No, when you are full of compassion and self-knowledge, you're not easily swayed. You're like a weeble. I don't know if you guys are old. Well, probably. You remember the little toys, the weebles that wobble and don't fall down?
They don't fall down. Yep.
Yeah. So that's what we become. We become so centered in ourselves and knowing our strengths and our weaknesses, because we have to recognize them too and say, okay, wait a minute. I see what you're trying to do. Stop it. Right.
Yeah.
So when we do that, we just become, when we have self-love and self-knowledge, we become almost invincible.
Absolutely. I love that. And it's interesting to hear you talking, because all three of us teach that in a different way. And that's the point of this whole community, is whatever language you can hear. I mean, Michael Jackson had a song, Man in the Mirror, and nobody seemed to hear it when that came out in the 80s. Like, hello. I'm asking,
exactly.
Take a look at yourself and make that.
Yeah. I'm starting.
But they sung it so loud too, you would think they would have heard it, but
it's the freaking
people only hear what they want to hear.
Yeah, so I love that, because I'm hearing your language. I hear Thaddeus talk about what he does, and like what I do, and we're all doing this same thing: is wake up, look in the mirror, own who you are, and create your life. Like, really figure out who you are and what you want, and go for it.
Yeah, and you're the only one who can do that.
Yeah, and that's what we're all about, is empowering people and helping them become their best self. So astrology.
Amen, sister.
Astrology is like the hidden roadmap that someone tucked in your glove box when you're a kid. And some
Uh-huh.
people don't look at that roadmap until they're much older. I mean, you started at 14, like that curiosity and that awakening. I started searching spiritually when I was probably about 32. Like I grew up in a very like prescribed life. Like I didn't really think about any of that stuff. And when I did, I was like, what? So when I looked at my astrology the first time, it was a huge aha moment. And then, of course, I'm like, all right, tell me all of the things. Like, I want my human design, I want my numerology, I want my astrology, my Vedic astrology, I want all of it. Like, tell me all the things about me because it's so validating to feel like that is totally how I am. And some of it's like, oh, that is totally how I am.
And when you know that, you can embrace it. You're like, yes, this is me. I deserve these things. I can do these things. And I'm aware of my negative tendencies too, so that I can see them when they're approaching, and I can say, no, I recognize you, and I am not giving into that part.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a Leo. So there's that like, oh, you're always wanting attention. I'm like, well, I'm aware that that's a tendency. So I have a volume knob on that. Like, okay, you don't need to be in the spotlight all the time. Like, that's really not who I've been. But then understanding the other pieces of my chart and my rising, our moon, both Aquarius, like that whole thing was like, oh, that's why. So it's so interesting when you can be honest about it and your own limitations. So I wanted to go down this rabbit hole for just a minute about Mercury in retrograde and people's perceptions of that, and as an astrologer, and there's other things going on. So it's currently September 12th, 2023. So give us just a quick glimpse of like what that all means and what we're in right now, because a lot of people are feeling tired, heavy, like, oh, there's a lot of that, and I'm seeing that kind of everywhere. So I don't look at astrology and then see how I feel it and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I look at the astrology and go, oh.
Yeah. So right now there's 7 planets in retrograde. And the last one doesn't go to direct until after the first of the year. So I think the last one, which is Uranus, go either Uranus or Pluto, one of the outer planets, is the last one to go direct, and that's like the end of January. So we still have a few months of the heaviness and the what the heck is going on. So when the planets are in retrograde, it gives you time to reflect on whatever those things are. Say for when Mercury is in retrograde, it makes you think about how you communicate, right? And it also messes with electronics big time. But whenever the planets are in retrograde, it is calling you to slow down in that particular area. So Mercury is like, don't be in a big rush to sign contracts or to make deals, or miscommunications can happen because Mercury is the planet of communication. Like with Saturn in retrograde, Saturn is the planet of discipline. So it makes you go back and look at the way that you deal with responsibility, kind of. Venus in retrograde. Venus is the planet of love. So it's asking you to review your relationships. Is this serving you or not serving you? So when the planets are in retrograde, depending, each planet covers a certain thing. So they're asking you to look at that particular area of your life and, shake it out. Get rid of what doesn't work. And one of the reasons that everything is so heavy right now, other than the planets are all in retrograde, is it's a time of purging, right? Because humanity has come to a point now when we have this heaviness, on a planetary scale, cosmic scale. It's just heavy, because we've been living in this 3D world.
Come on, Mercury. Leave her alone.
The universe doesn't want its secrets revealed. She's saying too much. Cut her out.
cosmos are asking us to not. Pardon me?
So that was really.
I missed what you said. I'm sorry.
Oh, that was really funny because you were just saying Mercury messes with electronics, and then that last piece, it like started like glitching a bit, and we were laughing like, "Quit it, Mercury! It's not funny." So
All
that
right, Mercury, stop it.
stop it. So
You were revealing all the secrets of the 7 planets in retrograde, and it was like,
like, we're gonna mess with you right now. We'll show you. We'll show you who's got the power, got the influence.
oh, you said the electronics.
Yeah. So one of the best.
Anyway, it was funny.
One of the best
because
things we can do.
Okay, I think you're good now. Wait, hang on. Your video was like a little off, and then it was totally impossible to hear you, which made it really funny. So I think if we like, okay. Let's
All
try.
right, you guys, please stop it. We're trying to conduct an interview here. I know you think you're funny, but ha ha ha.
Okay.
They do have a good sense of humor. All the spirits that are out there.
yeah.
So anyway, I forgot what I was saying.
I was trying to figure out what you were saying before it started glitching. Do you remember Thaddeus? Because it was like really well timed. But
yeah, because you were talking about the 7, why everything was heavy was because of the 7 in retrograde, and then
the purging.
Yeah, when it zapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when the planets are on retrograde, what their specific planet is asking you to look at that issue in your life, like with Saturn is the planet of discipline. So it's asking you to look at the way that you deal with restriction or authority, right? So it's asking you to look at how you're doing that and review that. And Mercury is with the communications, obviously. Thank you very much. Don't zap it again. Venus, when Venus is in retrograde, Venus is the planet of love. So it's asking you to look at the relationships that you're in or that you've had and see how they serve you, because sometimes we carry these burdens of relationships or out of obligation when it's not healthy for us anymore, right? So when the planets are in retrograde, each one respectively for what they rule, asks you to look at that and reconsider how you deal with that. This is an opportunity for us to review what we've done in the past and make changes.
I really like that retrograde is about reflection and stop villainizing it. Like our technology is a huge piece of our communication, so it makes sense that that's like maybe you need to get together in person and work out things that are a real communication issue, like with that much connection. So it's interesting because the technology thing is I was trying to like sort out some files on my computer, and it was just doing all kinds of weird stuff. I'm like, okay. So I have this is me too. The planets do their thing, but then the people have villainized Mercury retrograde. They're like, oh, Mercury's in retrograde, everything sucks. And I'm like, stop it. It's not that bad. So the collective agreement about Mercury in retrograde, nobody talks about other planets in retrograde in general. But the collective agreement makes that even more powerful, that Mercury is messing with us.
Well, I think one of the reasons is because Mercury goes retrograde the most often.
Yes, and it's
so people recognize that, and it's the most spoken about, right? You don't hear about a lot of the other planets being retrograde because a lot of them are like the outer planets, which they have an effect, but it's all about reviewing and releasing and taking that time to reset ourselves, to do the research and the releasing of things that no longer serve us. So really, when the planets are in retrograde, it's given us a break. in a way to where we can evaluate our present state.
Right. I think it's just interesting that because Mercury is so common and focused on, that it seems like we've given away our power to it almost. Like, I can't do anything, Mercury's in retrograde. Like, no, actually this is when you're supposed to reflect, and this is giving you space to do that. And hey, guess what? Other planets go retrograde and we don't tell you to reflect on your relationships or your, like we don't hear about that as much. So let's go this way with astrology as that understanding and our own tendencies, our own charts, the masculine and feminine energy underneath our astrology. So each of the planets is masculine or feminine energy, right? Typically
That's correct.
considered that way. So the planets that are in your chart being masculine or feminine affects you and your tendencies. So Thaddeus and I really like to get into this. The masculine, feminine energy, the balance in each of us, the awareness of it, the self-awareness, and all of the ways we can nurture and understand more. Like our goal is always like, how do we understand ourselves better so we can relate better? And that is, I think, a fascinating piece about astrology is if you said like, well, this planet's masculine, like, well, what does that mean? And so let's go there. Let's talk about the chart tendencies, finding that.
Okay, so the planets are either masculine or feminine, and the signs are either masculine or feminine. So I'm going to use Saturn as an example. So Saturn is a masculine planet. He's the father figure of the zodiac. He's the disciplinarian, the taskmaster, the no BS, just down to work, right? So that's masculine. But if your Saturn is in Cancer, Cancer is a feminine sign. Cancer is the polar opposite of Saturn. I mean, Saturn's the male taskmaster, and Cancer is the moon mother, right? Yeah. So if you have a masculine planet and a feminine sign, then that's going to be like, okay, you're going to have a little bit of interesting information with there and that. So, and then it also depends on what the house is in, because the houses determine a different part of your life. So you look at all that. You look at the planet, whether it's masculine or feminine, and what sign it is, whether that's masculine and feminine. For me, in my chart, my Saturn is in Capricorn, which is its home spot. So again, that makes me I'm going to go and do this. I'm the taskmaster, disciplinarian. I'm really hard on myself because I have Capricorn in my rising sign, so that's triple. My first house, personality, Saturn, a masculine planet in its own sign of Capricorn, which is also masculine, I believe. So it's like, okay. But then again, my moon's in Cancer, which is the most feminine, So it's interesting when you look at the different planets and what, their masculinity or femininity, and then the signs that they're in. So it's really cool when you look at that chart, you're like, okay, well now this makes you this way because of this, right? But in the end, a lot of us are balanced. So, but then again, when I look at some people's charts, they got everything like crammed up in one little spot. Like, oh man, you're going to have such difficulty, because you all focused on one thing. There's not a lot of balance in there. So that's when we discover that in our chart, that like everything is in the fifth house. We're all about having fun, and that's all we care about, because the fifth house is the house of pleasure and creativity, right? So they're not going to care about the sixth house of service, because they're having fun. So when you look at a chart and you see what the planets are and what signs they are and what houses they're in, it's like, oh, that's why you do that.
It's totally about understanding and awareness of your own tendencies. So something that's been kind of interesting to me, when I had my Vedic astrology chart done, and so I'm in a class and I'm following it out and filling everything out, and I'm looking at it like, okay, what the heck does this mean? And the teacher comes over and looks over my shoulder and says, so you've got Venus in your love and relationships house in retrograde. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like,
Mhm.
so that retrograde thing comes into play in the charts as well when you do readings, right?
Yeah, so depending on your time of birth, like right now, if you're born now, all your planets are going to be in retrograde because they're all in retrograde. So when I was born, I think I have four planets in retrograde. So when you're born and the planet in your chart is in retrograde, that means you're going to have more difficulty doing that. It's not going to be as easy. I mean, you can still do it, but it's like one step forward or two steps forward, one step back.
Gotcha.
It's going to be a little bit more difficult if because it is in retrograde than if it weren't in retrograde. But then again, sometimes we need that to slow down and not run willy-nilly and off the cliff, right? So these things are for us, but sometimes we resist it. We think, oh no, well, wait a minute and
Yeah.
think about it.
This is what we're having for dinner tonight, and you get to eat this. Like, well, I want something else. Nope, that's the thing you get. Like, you're gonna have to accept it because that's who you are. I feel like that.
Absolutely.
How much resistance do you get in a reading when you say you have maybe this tendency, and people are that may be new to astrology readings that are just learning this stuff? So they're like, my what's in my house, like they don't get it yet, but you're telling them stuff that they don't want to look at. You're kind of calling them out. How does
Well,
that?
that's fine. I'm just here I'm here to shine the light for you to see this.
Yeah.
If you don't want to see it, that's not my problem.
Yeah. I feel like those moments are like seed plantings where it's like, oh my gosh, an astrologer told me that 7 years ago and she was right. Damn it.
Yeah, and that's a good thing about astrology is because some people may be resistant at first, no, like that's a bunch of baloney. And they're entitled to that, but the more you learn, the more you're going to see that it's true. And I just present the facts. I just show you this. I make offerings for you to, learn about yourself. I give you my insights, my perspective, things that I've learned, and I present that to you. And you're welcome to take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. You're a resource.
You know.
You're a resource of awareness, and I think that that's the whole point of it. Like, you can ask me a question, I'll give you an answer whether you like it or not, and whether you want this for dinner or not tonight is it's what we're having.
Yeah, take it or leave it. It's up to you. And that's the cool thing about life. It's all about choices. Our lives are the choices we make. So we can be presented with a beautiful buffet of wonderful things. And we're like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. That's fine. Don't eat that. Go hungry if you want. That's your choice. Nobody's forcing you to eat this beautiful buffet, right?
Yep.
But if you're hungry, you probably should eat something.
Yeah, make a good choice. We always end up talking about delicious food for some reason too. Like last week it was Snickers, candy bars, Halloween, trick-or-treating. So what's your favorite food, Sue? Let's just do that. What's your favorite
Oh,
food?
I love Mexican food. I eat Mexican food, quite a bit. But I don't really cook too much because I live alone and it's just too much really hassle to cook. But when I do cook, I cook salmon. I love salmon.
Me too.
So I have a George Foreman grill. I put it on the grill or I bake it in the oven with pesto butter. It's like so good. So yeah, I eat a lot of fish or Mexican food. That's about all I eat. And chocolate.
Just thought I'd go there. Oh, and chocolate. Yeah. Did you have other thoughts, ideas, questions, comments, Thaddeus, I think we kind of covered like a bunch of all the things we wanted to go over, but give you space too.
Um, I was just thinking about the role of astrology and trauma, because it seems like trauma might throw you off of your chart, or even like your history trauma. Like I'm not familiar with the charts that much, but it seems like if you're living in a house that's full of people that are their charts are dominated by your Uranus, and your chart's dominated by Venus, it seems like it might cause conflict, or I don't know, it might even cause cohesiveness, almost like we were talking about another time, like finding the right trauma for you. And it gets into that, like finding the right astrology for you, but then it gets, in my mind, it's complicated because astrology also seems like it's a benefit in the sense that it's giving you what to work on if you look at it in the future. Like, okay, in this, since these seven planets are in retrograde, this might be a good time to work on this and this. And okay, if this is not, then this might be a better time for something else. Does that make sense? I felt like I was just saying words.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because with the planets in retrograde, which they all of them do periodically and stay retrograde for differing periods of time. So when they're all together in retrograde, it's just kind of a time, like for me, I call it like hibernation, right? I just go within and I do the soul work, right? The shadow work, because that's what retrograde is for, is to do the shadow work within ourselves, so that when the planets go direct, we will go direct for moving forward also, because we take that time to sort things out that no longer serve us, right? And we're being forced to do that because of the heaviness and um, the energy, right? So we're being forced to look at these things with the planets in retrograde, and we do kicking and screaming most of the time because we don't want to. We just want to pretend that crap ain't there, right?
Yeah.
And we can do that, but we're not going to grow if we hang on to things that don't serve us. So when the planets are in retrograde like this, it's a time for purging, to get that stuff out, get out the old that's suffocating us, that's weighing us down, so that we become lighter and open for the new, better things that are coming as we move forward.
Love it. You were saying
I'd
words.
also like to mention too about astrology. I'm going to be teaching us Astrology 101 at the Place of Spiritual Wisdom um, the last Saturday and the last Saturday in October and the first 2 Saturdays in November. It's going to be a 3-week course. It's the first one is about the planets. The second one is about the signs, and the third one is about the houses. So that when you look at a chart, you will be able to see and know what that means just by looking at it. I'm not going to go into all the heavy, tangents, because there's a zillion of them. So it's just Astrology 101,
Excuse me.
planets, signs, houses, and what those things mean, so that you will be able to learn more about yourself and
Yeah,
share that with others.
it's interesting. Are you familiar with the human design concept?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know the names of a lot of stuff that I
Yeah,
follow.
so the human design, when someone told me about it, like when you go to this website and you put in your birthday, it's based on like you'd probably think it was interesting. It's based on a time before you're born where there's an imprint. And the design, it's like one of those things that you can go down 400 rabbit holes and get a huge report on, but just the basic understanding of that design. There's people who have their own energy, their energy types, and people that need energy from outside sources are the non-energy types. So like the creative person and then the manifesting person, like they need each other, so there's these, you need to work together. I'll put the link in there for this because it was a huge cool understanding about myself too. I'm a manifesting generator, which means I can come up with ideas and I can put them into play, and I have my own energy and I can go all day. And my energy type is, if I don't go until I'm exhausted, then I'll just sit there like what else can I do? What else can I do? So I have to like, okay, you can be done. But the non-energy types, they need to connect with energy types to get that engine, to get that energy going. And once I understood just these, there's only a few basic types. Once you understand those, when you meet people, you can kind of pick up like they're an energy type or they're a non-energy type, just that basic piece. But then the understanding a little further into it, of what that means. And there's, well, I'll link it. I won't go down this rabbit hole, but it's another point of understanding related on your date, place, birth, time, but then before that. So I think you'd be fascinated. I'm actually interested in your take on it. It's been interesting after I meet people, and then I'm like, hey, would you be interested in knowing your human design? And then they put their birth date in, and it's exact like I knew it. Like, yes, it's another validating piece. Like I knew you were, because I have a good friend who's like, I want to do these things, but I can't do it alone. Can't do it alone. Like those people need energy types to work with. So when you understand that about yourself, your natural tendencies, and there's like little pieces you can research that'll just give you a little bit of insight, it really helps with that. Like if I'm not operating in my design, I feel weird, or I feel like it's not working. It's just another cool piece of understanding. So I'll share that. We won't go, I think we're about done for today on this one, but I'll share that with you guys, and maybe we'll do one of those. I know there's people who go deep down that rabbit hole, just like any other modality.
Well, you can never have too much information about yourself.
Yeah.
Because the more information that you have on yourself, the more you can sort through and understand, oh, okay, these are my tendencies. I understand why I'm doing that or why I don't want to do that. And then we have all that in our skill set, in our toolbox that we can take out and use for different things.
Yeah.
Not everything works for everybody, but the more information you have on yourself, the better able you are to make better decisions and be successful.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting that you talk about that, because my human design is a manifester, and I was talking to someone about human design, and manifestors are the most resistant to learning about themselves and all this stuff. So like I hear everything you're talking about with the astrology stuff, and it's all like overwhelming, and it's like I just want to do it, and like what's the benefit for me? What like if I were to go to astrologist, it would be more like, okay, so what do I need to work on today, tomorrow? What's the most beneficial for me? I don't want all the information. I just want the
Get to
information
the point.
for me. Yeah, because the manifestor is definitely about me. Where like the manifesting generator is like, oh, let me figure it all out. And like as a manifestor, it's like I can start some shit, but then I need somebody to finish it for me. Like it's like, okay, yeah, we need to go on. So it's interesting just hearing you guys talk, and it's like, oh yeah, we need all this information. I'm like, I don't need all this information. It's too much, too much. Just what can I use? What can I use? These 7 planets in retrograde. Okay, so what can I work on now? I don't need to know all the details about Uranus is in love and Mercury's communication. Just what do I need to work on?
Patience.
There you
Patience,
go.
yeah.
That's what I love about it is our own experience in general. Like we think that everybody's like us until we realize that everybody's so completely different. So
Yeah.
when I'm speaking from my experience, and everybody does that, it's like, well, this is true for me, so this must be how it is. Like, well, for you, that's true. So that's the same thing, like that own awareness of ourselves, like that's not anybody else, that's just you. So I think Sue's probably has this in common. Like we like getting like, give me everything, dump it in my lap, tell me everything, and then we can like pick out what we need. And that is just like,
Exactly.
serve me up the golden egg today, and I will eat that. And then tomorrow we will do it again, and don't tell me anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of understanding, like, who are you? What do you want? What do you need? What is going to work for you? And like seriously, the human design thing is it's just like every other thing. There's so much to it, but I've only gone in like 10-15% and gotten enough. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not gonna learn about all of the undefined and defined areas of that chakra chart system, whatever. Okay, that's all I need from
You got the information that you needed.
Yeah. And some people
You got the information that you needed.
Exactly. Some people are super passionate about that modality and will talk your ear off for hours about it. And I'd be like Thaddeus is right now, like I don't need that. No, stop.
That
Like
blank look on
when
your
I go to
face.
the Chinese buffet, I get the orange chicken and the fried rice. And then I go back and I get the orange chicken and the fried rice. I don't sample everything. It's orange chicken, fried rice, orange chicken, fried rice. This is good. And I'll take lots of it. But you give me everything and I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
It's good to know what you like.
Yeah, this is way too much information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna end this recording in this video. So thank you guys. I'll just stop this recording in a minute here, and all of the notes and everything will be in the show notes, all the events, all the links for everything we've talked about. So we will see you
And
next
it'll be on the website, Conscious website.
This will go on to our YouTube channel and onto the Conscious Events group. And then again, what I've been doing is pulling out those little special moments we have and making YouTube shorts because that's fun.
Okay.
So yeah, they'll be all out there. We'll see you
Cool.
later.